everyone, welcome to another episode of Drinking with Dana. It's nice to be here with everyone. It's been a rough couple of weeks, so I'm actually going to get right to it. Nothing new I can announce for the channel, just kind of trucking along at this point. Although, as always, I appreciate you being here and would love it if you're watching on YouTube, like and subscribe. I really need the subscribers so I can get a decent channel link for this. If you're watching on Twitch, thank you very much. I appreciate you. I'm still working on my plans to get affiliate level. I will let you all know when I figure that out. Like I say, it's been a rough couple of weeks. There was apparently a announcement from the president of Twitch or the CEO or something like that about revenue splitting and that kind of thing. I don't have opinions on that because I'm not at the point where I get revenue from this. Tips are always appreciated, but never required. So that's all I have to say on that. Let's get a drink. So the first drink we're going to do today, let me move this here. Okay, first drink we're going to do today is the Sidecar, and I have a confession to make. I was trying to think of the third drink for this show, and I thought, I used to make sidecars. I have a couple of friends who were really into sidecars. Lucas and David, if you're out there, hi. Lucas is actually the bass player on for the Destroyers, whose great music you heard in the introduction. Always check them out. They are an incredible live band. Anyway, long story short, about 3 or 4 years ago now, at one of our Christmas parties, they said, "Oh, can you make a sidecar?" And I was like, "I suppose. What's in it?" And I made them, and they were really good. And I basically spent the rest of the evening making sidecars for folks. So it's a really great drink, but I haven't made one in at least a year or two. So let's see if I remember how. Now, the history of the Sidecar, it goes way back to about, it's one of those post-World War I cocktails where as you can tell from the name, it's one of the long line of cocktails named after military equipment. So obviously it was named after the sidecars that were on Army motorcycles in World War I. Now, as to who invented this drink, there's a lot of different stories and no one's really pinned it down for sure. The first time it sees print is in, let's see which, oh, I don't remember, I didn't write down the name of the book, but so basically there's a gentleman named Pat McGarry, and he was the bartender at the Bucks Club in London, and he is given credit for inventing it in the first recorded recorded book in 1922. However, there are other people, and they say that he brought it to the Ritz-Carlton, the Paris Ritz bar in Paris, and taught them how to make it there. And other people say no, it was invented at the Paris Ritz bar, and he learned how to make it there. So the bartender at the Paris Ritz bar was Frank Meyer. There are different stories on either side of this. Even the cocktail book, Cocktails from the Ritz Paris, admits there's controversy because Frank Meyer normally sort of signs his drinks that past tense, drinks that he had made, but he didn't do that with this, so that seems strange. And then other people say it gets very complicated. But because of that, there's sort of developed two schools on how to make this drink. the French school and the English school. The French school has all the ingredients as equal parts, and the English school has twice as much cognac as it does everything else. And so I'm going to be making the London, or the English school sidecar here, because that's how I learned to make it. Let's see, as you see in the recipe there, it calls for a dry orange liqueur. That could be Cointreau, it could be triple sec, it could be dry Curaçao, so on and so forth. Any sort of orange liqueur. I know Greg from How to Drink uses a dry Curaçao. Well, I say Curaçao, it's probably pronounced Curaçao. Please correct me in the comments how you pronounce it. It's one of those words that I learned from reading as opposed to from hearing at first, and even now just about everyone I know pronounces it differently. So anyway, so you can use whatever. I'm going to be using Cointreau here, Cointreau, and one other slight change I'm going to make is that normally it uses cognac. I don't have cognac on hand. For some reason I was thinking my regular brandy that I use was cognac. It's not. It's just good brandy. So I'm using E&J's Grand Blue VSOP brandy for this. I don't think it will make much of a difference. Certainly I've never found a problem with it. So, first thing I'm going to do is cut the lemon for the lemon juice, but we need to rim the glass. This is one of those drinks where a little bit of sugar on the rim really helps it. So, grab some sugar here and a plate. And you always want to rim your glass first, and I know that feel free to make all the rimming jokes you want here. I'm going to try and have a little more class than that now while I'm sober anyway. So anyway, take your half of lemon and just rub it around the outside of your glass. Again, I only want to rim this about halfway because that gives you the option to have it with sugar or without, and also you usually don't go all the way through the sugar anyway. So I just put a little lemon juice on there, and now I'm sort of patting it into the sugar. Not the best version of this I've ever done. Yes, I can say it's not the best rim job I've ever done. Again, class. Trying to have a little bit of class and decorum here. Alright. Again, not the best job, but it'll do. Okay. Alright, so we're just going to set that aside for right now. Also set aside the sugar. I'm not going to need that anymore tonight. And since I had my juice squeezer out already, I'm going to go ahead and use it for lemons. Basically, it just came out of the dishwasher. And we need an ounce of lemon juice. While I do this, let me know how you're doing in the chat. It's always great when I get to talk to everyone. Let's see. It's got this trimmer. Okay, there we go. Also, let me know if I'm looking and sounding okay. I mean, you know, the video and audio quality, I know my voice is crap and I'm working on it. As other visuals, I am modeling a shirt tonight from, and I apologize, I don't know her real name, but an incredible artist and cartoonist. She goes by, I believe, Samwich11, SAMWITCH 11 on Twitter. I'll put a link in the comments later, or in the description of the video. She does a lot of great trans humor and just a lot of fun stuff. So support her if you can. All right, so ounce of lemon juice in there. Ounce of Cointreau goes in next. And this is also a reminder I need to buy more Cointreau because I don't use it for very much. All right, pour that in. And now 2 ounces of brandy, or traditionally cognac, but in this case brandy. Pretty quiet in chat. I'm guessing everyone's saving up all of their comments and such for when I get to the Hot Buttered Jorts. Although I am trying, I'm giving you... Alright, I did say I was trying to be more classy than that. Maybe I should say more off-color things and that to give people a opportunity to comment. Random Girl 1, my beautiful wife, says that she's here for the candied bacon, and that's because she knows she's getting some candied bacon after this. Alright, so I am going to go ahead and put some ice in the shaker. Hold on. Alright, just go ahead and shake this up. Now, I did see that Greg double strained his. I don't know why. I don't think this really needs double straining. I'm just single straining it right in here. Although I am realizing this is the first time I poured it into this size glass. I used to use martini glasses for this because I didn't have these glasses. But this fills it up just right to the top. So, let me see if the back camera is working today. And let's see. There we go. Move it back a little bit. Get the whole picture there. So yeah, just a lovely amber drink. Nothing, especially exciting about it, but a classic, I have to say. So, there we go. I don't know why, but my tablet has decided that my fingers are too fat to click on the various scenes and things, so I'm having to use my stylus so it doesn't screw everything up. All right, let's give her a try. So it is heavily citrus. The first flavor you get is the orange, but then immediately followed by the sharp bite of lemon juice. And I'm kind of wondering if that lemon was a little underripe or something, because it's a very hard, very acidic bite to it. The brandy isn't terribly present. So start off with a little bit of the orange, then strong citrus, strong lemon bite, and then it fades into sort of a sweet tart flavor to it. And that was a sip with the sugar. I'm gonna try it again with the sugar again. Yeah, again, that sharp sort of back of your throat lemony taste, um, and then fades into that nice sweet tart flavor. And I'm kind of wondering if that's the sugar taking time to dissolve as I drink. So let me try it a little bit without the sugar here. Yeah, the sweet tartness is not as present. Honestly, I think this might do well with a just sort of a few drops, like a quarter ounce, maybe like a bar spoonful of simple syrup, or even honey syrup if you've got it. Um, but yeah, the brandy is kind of buried under all that citrus flavor. So that's why I don't mind using brandy for this. Now, maybe if I had a really good, very flavorful cognac, it would show up a lot more. But for right now, I'm pretty happy sticking with the brandy. So, and now is when I remember that I did not turn on the oven earlier. So let me do that. And thank you very much for following Winter Vespers. I appreciate you following, and I appreciate you being here. Thank you very much. And thank you to everyone watching right now. I know some folks aren't chatting because they're eating or what have you, but I appreciate everyone who's here, who joins me for this. So, all right. So that is our first drink. That is the Sidecar. Simple, classic drink. Not too many ingredients. It's a little on the dry, a little on the tart side, so if you like that, that's great. Like I say, I tend to like sweeter drinks these days, so a little bit of simple wouldn't go amiss. Definitely needs the sugared rim, in my opinion. But I will clean this up, and then we'll get on to the food, to the candied bacon. So, folks out there, Winter Vespers, have you ever had a Sidecar before? Have you ever tried one of those? Anyone out there, have you ever had a Sidecar? What are your thoughts on it? Let me know. Alright, so, oh, Winter Vespers has never had a Sidecar before. Well, it's certainly something you can try now. Like I say, it's a classic, and it's one of those ones where you know, for the most part, you tend to have the ingredients on hand. So like, you know, even if you don't have cognac, you'll have brandy. Even if you don't have the Cointreau, you'll probably have triple sec or other orange liqueurs, that sort of thing. So it's one where you can play around a little bit with the quantities, with the flavors in it. There are some orange liqueurs that are sweeter than others. I think Cointreau is one of the drier, less sweet ones. All right, so let me move this over to the next thing there. So, candied bacon. This is one of those things that has been on the. Basically, it was I want to say it's a fad. Just about every bar menu had candied bacon on it for a while, and now it's starting to disappear, which is a shame because it's really good, and you know, it's not too hard to make yourself, but it is something that is best when it's eaten fresh, so you can't really have it delivered, and it's, you know, it is some work to make, and I am very lazy, so. But it is a delicious treat when you can have it. And all right, I should probably explain what I'm doing here. So all I'm doing is I've got a cookie sheet and I'm lining it with foil because I don't want to clean up all of the bacon grease that's going to drip into this pan. And I'm laying a wire rack. It's actually a cooling rack on top, so you can just see that it's just a cooling rack with foil underneath over a cookie sheet. And then I've got some bacon. And I'm going to just lay out the bacon onto the pan. Let's see, am I there? Can you see what I'm doing? Yeah, you can. That's in shot. If that's the proper terminology. Look at me being all camera savvy and stuff. I'm still figuring out what I'm doing. We're 6 episodes in and I'm still making stuff up as I go along. Alright, so all I'm doing is laying out. I'm going to make about 6 slices. Oh, so that's one thing I should mention about this recipe. The way I typed it up there, you'll notice there are no quantities. That's because you can make as much or as little of this stuff as you want. Just fill up your pan and go to town. I'm making 6 slices right now because I'm sort of doing it as an hors d'oeuvre type thing for my wife and I while we wait, because I'm not cooking tonight. This will keep us, held over until food arrives. That way 3 slices for each. I'm using a nice thick cut bacon, so it will be a little. I like the thick cut because it gives you a little more chew, a little more bite to your bacon. The thin or regular cut bacon, sometimes it feels like you're not really getting anything out of it. So, and this also I think stands up to the brown sugar I'm going to put on it a little bit better. All right, so 6 slices of bacon in the pan. This is also where Lori's probably about to, my wife is about to post in the chat that I should probably put more on there, but we're doing 6 because that's what I've already gotten out, and I'm washing my hands, so it's too late to put more on. Oh no. All right. And if she's not complaining in chat, then it's her own darn fault for not watching the rest of the show. Although I know she's probably not doing that to save our bandwidth. Okay. So, bacon on a pan. Now I've got brown sugar, just plain. This is golden brown sugar. You can use dark brown sugar. I know Alton Brown. So this is also, by the way, I'm adapting this recipe from Alton Brown's recipe. He does some things with it that I'm not as crazy about, but it is in essence his recipe. He uses is it Muscovy, or basically the really dark brown sugar for more flavor to it. And my wife says she knew not to even ask for more bacon tonight. That's good. She can always get more later. That's one of the few benefits of being married to me. Anyway, I'm using golden brown sugar because that's what I have. And if you have dark brown sugar, I'd use that. If you have the more expensive, fancier, browner sugar, use that as well. I think this works fine. I'm not going to worry too much about it. But anyway, as you can see, I've got just a spoon of the brown sugar, and I'm just going to kind of sprinkle this over the slabs of bacon, and then I'm actually going to use my finger here to kind of push it because it sticks together. Don't worry if it gets into the foil there. It's not actually going to get all nasty and bubble up and burn the way the way sugar normally does when you stick it in the oven, because there's going to be plenty of bacon grease to keep it moist and from burning. So now what I'm doing is just kind of patting that brown sugar spreading it over the length of the bacon, because what this is going to do is caramelize. And by caramelize, I'm literally in this case mean turn into caramel. Caramel is made, and I meant to look up the exact formulation, but it's something to the effect of if you have basically grease, sugar, and salt, you end up with caramel. That's not precise, don't quote me on that, but it's something to that effect. Let's see. And I am putting a fairly good coating on here. Again, if you watch Alton Brown do his version of this recipe, he will not. He just kind of sprinkles it gently on there. Again, he's using just regular cut bacon. I'm using thick cut, and I think it can stand up to the extra brown sugar. Also, when I flip this over, and I am going to flip it over eventually, some of the brown sugar is going to come off. So that's not great, but the more you have on there, the more will cling, and I think that's fine. So let me wash my hands, and I will show you what I got here. Okay. So this is what it looks like. I can't tilt this too much, but that's what it looks like before it goes into the oven. Actually, there's one more step, but that's the brown sugar part of it. So the next step, the other thing you do here, is a little bit of black pepper over the top. And you can add black pepper to taste. I know my wife is not as crazy about black pepper as I am, so I'm going to be very gentle with it. And just sort of there. I need new batteries for this thing, so that should be good. And that's it. Now again, Alton Brown on his version, he adds a bunch of red pepper flakes. I'm not that big into spice, so I don't do that. I've got a recipe for this that uses crushed fennel seeds, and I think that is actually a really good addition to this, but I know not everyone has them on hand. I actually grow fennel in our backyard, and it's really easy to dry the seeds, so I've got a ton of them in there. The next batch I do, I'll probably put crushed fennel seeds on at least half of them. But also I'm already using the thing I would have crushed them up in. Any sort of seasoning you want to add to this, you want to add a little ground cinnamon, that might be a nice thing. It's, whatever you think will go well with caramel and bacon flavors. Just feel free to add it and play around with it, experiment a bit. Alright, so I'm going to stick this in a 375-degree oven for 15 minutes, and then I will have to flip that over. So, and you want to, and I did not do a good job of this, make sure all of your bacon is over the foil, because that way you won't get, if your bacon has gone over or outside of the foil, outside of the pan, you're going to drip in your oven and it's going to be a mess. Alright, so while that is in the oven, I will take another drink of this, and we will actually move on to the next cocktail, because it is a doozy, and I'm looking forward to it. It's a lot of fun. I'm also going to tidy up a little bit here. But that is the bulk of what you need to do for candied bacon. Okay, it's just put bacon on pan. Now I normally cook bacon in the oven anyway. I've been doing that for a while now, and it is really nice. It takes a lot less cleanup and a lot less work than frying it in a pan, and you can cook more of it at a time. What I normally do for just cooking normal bacon, Why am I trying to put bacon into a drawer? That's not where bacon goes. All right. So take a cookie sheet or a cookie sheet, and then take a long sheet of parchment paper. Just line the pan with it. Make sure that it completely covers all the edges and all that. Lay your bacon down into the parchment paper. Stick it in the oven. Again, I use thick cut bacon, so these are going to be the times and temperatures for that. So I stick it in a 400-degree oven for 15 minutes. Flip it over for another 10 minutes, and then see how it's doing. I think it needs to cook a little longer, I'll cook it for another 4 or 5 minutes. And that's it. The nice thing about that is it's cooking in its own fat, so it's just like it was frying in a frying pan. But when you're done, you can just set it off to the pan off to the side. The bacon fat will cool down, solidify. Just pick up the parchment paper, throw the whole thing away. So, all right, hot buttered jorts. All right, this is a 2-part recipe. Hi, I say to my beautiful wife, who is not going to be on camera because that's the kind of person she is. Oh, she is sneaking into the pantry for a pantry raid, it looks like. All right.
It's different than his.
As she puts it, different than a panty raid. All right, so drink number 2 is the hot buttered jorts, and this is a recipe that was invented by Lauren. No last name, I presume, like Cher or Anyway, she goes by at Mara Lauren, MauraLoran on Twitter. So please follow her there and witness and effuse about her brilliance and glory. She last Christmas invented the hot buttered jorts. If you don't know who Jorts is a, I want to say, famous cat on the internet. There's an entire saga about how people came to know about jorts. I cannot do it justice. So please look up the original story. It was originally on Edit under an "Am I the Asshole" post, if I remember correctly. Long story short, someone buttered jorts at one point, and got in a lot of trouble for it. And so a buttered jorts was invented. Jorts now, by the way, is a fairly famous, or again infamous, labor organizer, very pro-union, as are we here on the Drinking with Dana program. All of our non-existent crew is very thoroughly unionized, and as soon as they come into existence, we will make sure that that is done. So anyway, I'm rambling now. I'm just kind of on a rambling kind of thing today. So this drink is a little bit like a eggless Tom and Jerry, I want to say, but not really. Oh, let me get the rest of the stuff out for this. I was too busy rambling and not busy enough getting stuff out. So, let's see. I want to make sure I still have enough room to do the rest of the bacon when it's ready. This drink's, like I say, it requires a batter for it, which we're going to make now. And then you add a little bit of that batter to a glass with some bourbon, and some hot water, which I'm going to put the hot water on now, again, which I forgot to do earlier, and And once the batter is made, it's really easy to make the drink itself. So, and this makes up plenty of batter. Now, one note on here, and Lauren, if you're watching, please. Oh, so here, just a second. Yeah, unfortunately, Lori's trying to give me the link so people can read about jorts, but unfortunately, I have not given her moderator privileges yet, and I need to do that. But I'll put a link to the story and all that in the description of the YouTube version. Again, it's been a rough couple weeks. Looking up the story and having a link to get ready to go in the stream chat was something I had intended to do, but didn't quite get around to it. Anyway, I did make one small change to this, which is originally her recipe calls for a quarter cup, first of all, I halved everything just because while this is a lovely drink, the original recipe made a ton of batter, and it was unclear if you'd be able to go through it all in that time. It also called for a quarter of a teaspoon of salt, which in this would be an eighth of a teaspoon of salt, but also unsalted butter. I'm just sort of compromising and just using salted butter, so I don't have to try and measure out an eighth of a teaspoon of salt. I think it's plenty fine the way it is. If you try it and you think it could use a couple of grains of salt, feel free to add that in. I'm not your boss. Otherwise, this is all Lauren's recipe. So let me, now I've already got the half cup of in this case salted butter, in the my mixer here because I wanted it to warm up and get nice and soft, and I didn't want to have to worry about transferring it from one container to another and all that. So you'll just believe me that there is a quarter cup of salted butter in here. And now going for yet more brown sugar. And now remember, when this is a quarter cup of brown sugar, when you get brown sugar, always pack it down as tightly as you can. That is, in all recipes, when you use brown sugar, that is what they want you to do. So, there we go, quarter cup of brown sugar. And next is 2 tablespoons of caramel. And now in Lauren's post about this, she says that she had some caramel left over from dipping apples. And so I went to the store and looked for caramel apple dip, and this is what I found. This is just our local store brand. That was too coherent, so I'm going to have another drink of the Sidecar from earlier. You can, I presume, you can use different kinds of caramel and get slightly different flavors. I actually have some very fancy caramel that my parents gave me a long time ago, and I will probably use that in the future, but I want you to do it as close to Lauren's recipe as possible. So, I am just going to take, I'm going to try and get as close to 2 tablespoons of this as possible. And I am going to just, unfortunately this is very thick and very sticky, so I am just going to use my finger to kind of scrape it out of there, because I'm pretty sure, the alcohol will sterilize it, right? I actually saw a great tea towel a long time ago that I kind of wish I had got, but it says, everything here is made with love, which means I tasted something off the spoon and then kept using it. Alright, so again, I'm just going to scoop the caramel out of there. There. Alright, now I'm actually going to wash off the caramel here, not because I'm worried about it dripping on anything, because that's not going anywhere. But because I'm going to need the 1 tablespoon measuring spoon again later, and also I have caramel under my fingernail, so this would be a good time to get that out. Look, all I'm saying is that Greg from How to Drink does not have to deal with some of these problems. Doing everything he can do backwards and in high heels is what I'm saying. Well, in Birkenstocks. All I know is I'm prettier than he is. Anyway, there we go. The sidecar is doing its job. Alright, so, unsalted butter, packed brown sugar, caramels. Now we do cinnamon. And I'm going to use pre-ground cinnamon for this, because even though it's only a 1/4 teaspoon, I'm lazy and I think that it's fine for this application. And also it's really hard to measure, ground cinnamon. You have to sort of grate it into some wax paper, and then then filter it into, or sort of funnel it onto your measuring spoon, and so on. Anything where you have to measure out a specific amount, just go ahead and use powdered. I think it's fine. That being said, make sure to get new spices every so often, once every year, once every 2 years. Just like with your makeup, you're supposed to sub it out every so often, and just like with makeup, no one ever does, but spices can get old and lose some of their potency, and some of their flavor, so keep that in mind. Alright, and we're skipping the salt because I'm using salted butter. So, I am just going to turn this on and mix it together. And I'm going to grab a spatula to clean up the sides, make sure everything gets mixed in well. The big thing you're looking for here, and it shouldn't be a problem if you put your butter out to soften, but you just don't want any big chunks of butter left. If you don't have a food processor that's of a decent size, because I think if I used my big food processor, this would just get kind of spun around the sides and it would be impossible to mix together. So if you don't have a small food processor, a small food prep type thing, you can just let the butter get really soft and then just use a fork and a small bowl and mix everything together that way. It'll be just fine. Don't worry about it. So all I'm doing here is, this thing has a chop and a grind setting, and basically that means that the blade turns in opposite directions, and it has one blade lower and closer to the ground, and the other direction it's a little higher up and not as close to the bottom. And all that, the only reason I'm switching back and forth between them is because that will get stuff mixed up, lower levels and higher levels. Just making it easy on myself. And this is where I remember that I did not set a timer for the bacon. So, I am going to stop here and take a look at our bacon. And yes, it's time to do something with that. for those new here, Winter Vespers, this is where I tell you that the subtitle of this show is called Cooking with ADHD. And I do stuff like not remember to set the timer all the time. Alright, so I'm going to see if I can move things down here. So our batter for the Hot Buttered Jorts is basically done. So we'll move on to the next step after I'm done with the bacon here. So we'll go back to the bacon recipe. All I'm doing here is I've taken this out, I'm going to flip it over and put the brown sugar on this part. Now I should be wearing an apron or something because splattering bacon grease on yourself is never good for you or your clothes, but I'm not doing that, so you can see this pretty shirt. And I'm just going to be careful. Also, handy household tip, handy homemaker tip, is if you do get grease on your shirt, put a little bit of dishwashing detergent on that spot, with a little bit of water to sort of get it in there, and then when you run it through the clothes washer, it will get that grease right out. Now, I don't know why my bacon has decided to form this weird arc shape, kind of a bacon rainbow shape, I don't know. But it has, and we will work with that. So, alright. Let me grab the spoon I was using for that, which is right over here. I'm going to grab some more brown sugar and do just like I did before. I'm just going to sort of, again, just touch this here. Now, because I had touched some of the bacon there, I'm only touching the brown sugar because I do not want to get undercooked bacon mixed in with my brown sugar. Well, by which I mean I'm probably going to need a little bit more brown sugar than this. Yeah. And so I'm not touching the actual... And again, you want just about as much as you did before, and this will probably not, or this will definitely not, fall off the same way the other did when we flipped it over. Just kind of pat it in there. Some of these are going to be a little bit heavier than others, but that's fine. So the bacon grease is combining with the the bacon grease is combining with the sugar to make that delicious caramel that is the goal. Alright, so I think that's pretty good. Okay, and then just another quick dousing of pepper. And in case you're wondering what this is, for those who've never seen the show, this is my automatic pepper grinder. Battery powered pepper grinder. I love it to death. I use a lot of black pepper, and I think this is the best thing ever. They're not very expensive. I highly recommend getting them. Alright. So, washing off my hands here, get any baking contamination off there, and then I'll put that back in the oven for, now, if I timed this right, it should be another 10 minutes, but I'm going to check it at 5 just to make sure I don't burn it. The first time I did this, I followed Alton's directions a little too well, and he says to put it in for 15 minutes, flip it over, do it another 15 minutes, and then you may have to put it in for 5 more. Well, I put it a couple of slices in just to test, and after 15 minutes, flip it, do another 15 minutes. They were charcoal. So I think the less slices of bacon, the less time they cook. I would definitely start checking no matter what after 10 minutes. They should be done. If they're not done after that second 10 minutes, then put them in for another 5 and they'll probably be good. Again, that's if I had done 15 minutes before, I'm not entirely sure. But yeah, so that's why I have on the recipe on the screen, put in for 15 minutes, flip them, put them in for another 10. And flip them, put the brown sugar and black pepper on. All right, now back to, and please believe me, things are not normally this manic. This is a very special episode of Drinking with Dana. All right, so now we are going to go to the actual second part of the drink, of the hot buttered jorts. I'm going to put my hot water back on just to make sure it is nice and steamy. All right, so how to make the hot buttered jorts itself. We've got the batter all done right here, all mixed. So we need 3 things, and I just realized there's a 4th thing we need that I did not put on the list, but I will show you in a minute. So I'm going to build it in this cute little coffee glass, and now in Lauren's version of this, she shows it in a beautiful teacup. It looks like it might be copper or something, but it's a lovely little teacup. That seemed a little too elegant for a not terribly bright cat. Oh, bollocks, I just realized there's a 5th thing that we need. I completely forgot. I'm terribly sorry, everyone. This has not been a great week. So, we need whipped cream for this. And I planned to make some this afternoon, and then completely forgot myself. So, in case you've never made whipped cream from scratch, let me show you how that's done. So, the reason I make whipped cream from scratch, yes, it's because I'm very extra, but also because whipped cream tends to either just get eaten with a spoon around here, or it just sits in the fridge and goes bad. So I just make it from scratch when I'm ready for it, and it's good then. All right, so let me explain what I'm doing. I just poured some heavy cream into a bowl. Hopefully you can still hear me, because I need to get out the powdered sugar. So I just poured in enough whipped cream to cover the bottom of the bowl. And all right, I am now going to dump in an amount of powdered sugar. This is one thing I always kind of play by ear. You could, if you really like sweet. All right, that is way too much powdered sugar, because that's how today's going. So I am going to scoop a bunch of that out, and I will deal with it later, because I think my wife would like that much powdered sugar in it. But all right, well, that's still more than enough, but we'll deal with it another time. So, Winter Vespers, please come back. This is not normally how this goes. I normally have my stuff together so much better than this. Okay, so plug this in. One last thing is that I am going to add just a drop or 2 of vanilla, which all this sugar, I'm not sure if you'll actually be able to I'm going to check on the bacon here. I'm not going to add the vanilla yet. I'm going to check on the bacon. It is not quite done, so I'm going to put it in for another, we'll call it another 5 minutes, and that should help. All right, so a drop of vanilla in there, and then I'm going to mix this up. My wife says in the chat, whipped cream from scratch is, it means that she gets to lick the beaters. Which, again, not a euphemism. Alright, so, basically I just stirred everything together a little bit. I'm going to turn up the speed on this thing all the way to the top. It's going to get really loud for a second. I'm sorry, I meant to get this done early. Once you get everything, all the sugar mixed in, beat it at this highest temperature or highest speed you have. If yours has a power boost button like mine, feel free to use that. If you can see, I'm kind of rotating this around so everything gets mixed together. I'm also using my hand to keep it from spattering out of the bowl. And what I want to see when this is done is what's called stiff peaks. Again, not a euphemism. All stiff peaks means is that when you lift up the beaters, it kind of stays more or less how it was when the beaters were in there. So, we're going to call that good. As you can see in the bowl, nice, it basically is not moving. That's what you want to see. Alright, so there you go. Bonus recipe for you. Alright, I'm going to wash off any splatter on my hands. Take another drink of Sidecar. Okay, so, Hot Buttered Jorts. Where were we? Got our cute little glass. We take a tablespoon of this batter, or as close to it as you can get. Now, if you store this in the freezer, or not freezer, refrigerator, it should keep for about a couple of weeks at least, probably longer, but it will get a lot harder, so you can form it into a nice cube and cut off slices that are about a tablespoon. You can try and scrape it into a tablespoon, however you want to do it, but right now it's nice and soft, so I'm just gonna again use my finger because I'm the one drinking this, and again the bourbon will sterilize it nicely. Not that I'm diseased or anything that you know of. So, there's that. Now, the next thing we're going to add is an 1.5 ounces of bourbon. Now these are, so Lauren did not remember precisely how much she used of each. She said she liked hers smaller and stronger. these are the proportions that I came up with, and I think they work pretty well. So I'm going to use an ounce of bourbon here, and I'm just using Jim Beam bourbon because anything fancier that I had was cask strength or over 90 proof. All right, I'm going to check our bacon again, and it looks perfect. So I'm going to take that out and set it and let it cool down for just a bit to let it get cool enough to actually handle. Again, slight difference from what Alton does. He takes it and puts it on paper towels. In my experience, all the sugar then sticks to the paper towels, and you have to kind of pry them off, and you lose a lot of flavor. I'm just leaving them on the cooling rack. I'll still have to kind of pry them off, but there's a lot less surface area to pry off. Back to this. Again, things normally not this chaotic. Well, I want to say they're not normally this chaotic. All right, so I have nearly boiling water here. So she said, these are the ratios that I found that work well. You can actually make a non-alcoholic version of this with slightly different ratios that I will talk about in a minute. I am now probably going to burn my fingers slightly because that's how today's been going. Normally it's not a problem. Please be very careful. Be smarter than I am. Just as a general rule, be smarter and more careful than I am. But for now, I am going to pour 3 ounces of scalding water into my glass. And you do need it really hot to melt that batter mixture. Now again, this is, still pretty, this has not been refrigerated or anything, but it is going to take a bit of stirring to get it really well incorporated. If you have it in the refrigerator, it will take a lot longer than that, and it will really cool down your hot water. Again, if you like it stronger than this, use less hot water. If you like it less strong, use more hot water. Let's see. So that is the base of the drink. You want to top it with some of your whipped cream. And I'm just going to put a couple good spoonfuls in here. And then you want to use I just use a vegetable peeler for this, but you want to use it, you want to get a nice long peel of orange. Now, Lauren is a much better artist than I am, and she cut little cat ears into hers, and it looked like a little orange jorts stuck inside. I'm not that talented, and I tried it last night. It didn't look all that great. So what I'm doing is basically squeezing it here to express some of the oils from this, and then we'll just have Jort's tail sticking up out of the trash can that he dove into. So I think that is also well in keeping with the Jort's spirit. All right, yeah. As my wife says, do as Dana says, not as Dana does. And yes, she does really like the non-alcoholic version of this. But since I have the alcoholic version right now, I am going to give that a try, and then I will let you know how it is. And then I will talk about the non-alcoholic version. So here we go. So this is definitely a dessert drink. There is, even if I don't add too much powdered sugar to the whipped cream and the brown sugar in the batter and all that leads to a very sweet drink. it is a very creamy drink, but not overwhelmingly so. All right. Let me take a sip and take this from the top. So the first taste you get is the whipped cream, definitely. But then the bourbon starts cutting through it. But it cuts through it in I want to say in a mellowed out way. It's not a harsh, sharp alcohol flavor. It's all of the good parts of the bourbon, the woodiness, the caramel flavors, that sort of thing, combined with the caramel that you get from the batter, and you just get hints of cinnamon in with it. You get a little bit of the orange from the orange oils that you squeeze into there, and over time it slowly is going to infuse more and more of those orange flavors in as well. I did not actually stick this in front of the camera so you can at least see what it looks like after I've had a couple drinks. Again, sorry, I am not on my A game today. 6 episodes, you'd think I'd have this down by now, but that is what a Hot Buttered Jorts that's had a few drinks taken out of it looks like. You can see the orange in there. The orange tail just sticking out, so you know that the cat's in trouble. So, alright. So, and now the reason I did now we go back to the food, to the candied bacon. And I'm just going to peel a piece off here and let you know how it is. So, well, yeah, because I don't want to tilt the whole pan up for fear of spilling bacon grease all over my kitchen. But you can see here, that's what it looks like. Nice and lacquered and crispy. It will look a little bit more brown than you're used to, a little darker than you're used to. And that's the sugars caramelizing on there. But otherwise, you can see the back, it's a little less dark, but what can I tell you? It's sweet bacon with a little bit of pepper on it. It is a delight. It's nice and chewy. It's yeah, it's kind of everything you want it's the best version of bacon, and that's saying something. So yeah, you get the sweetness from the caramel and all of the bacon. You don't lose any bacon flavor. It is wonderful, and it goes nicely with this. The cinnamon in the batter comes out. The cinnamon and the caramel flavors all just combine, and then play nicely with the interplay, or with the meat and the caramel on the bacon. It's just, the two go really well together, and it kind of looks like it's a cat treat, maybe. Not our cats, no matter how much they protest. So that was Dana's Chaos Hour. I don't know what happened today. I am so sorry. Maybe I need to take a my wife says mistakes make for good TV and videos. Sure, we'll go with that. This was all part of my nefarious plan. Anyway, yeah. Hopefully next time is not as chaotic. I will try and rein things in. Lauren, if you're watching, I'm sorry. I meant to do a much better job with your delicious, delicious drink. Oh, which I never talked about the non-alcoholic version of it. All right. So, if you want to do a non-alcoholic version of the Hot Buttered Jorts, substitute out the bourbon, the 1.5 ounces of bourbon, with 3 ounces of apple juice. I used apple cider, by which I mean I literally went out to the apple tree in the backyard, picked some apples, ground them up, juiced them, got some apple juice. So yeah, if your store sells what they call apple cider, not hard cider, but apple cider, try that. If you just have apple juice, it should still work. But you need a little bit more of the apple flavor than you do with the bourbon. The bourbon's just a stronger flavor. Play around a little bit with it and see what ratio works well for you. You might need a little bit more batter in there, but I thought that equal parts hot water to apple juice, and then a tablespoon of batter, maybe a little bit more, worked pretty well. Fills up the cup a little bit better. And if I may, Lauren, if you're watching, I would like to propose that be the Hot Buttered Gene as opposed to the Hot Buttered Jorts. Because it's a little more sober and knows a little bit more what it's doing. Anyway, yes, so that is the non-alcoholic version. I'm not making that today because you can see what mess I made when I planned to make stuff. In the meantime, are there any questions out there? Are people still with us, or are they just completely abandoned ship? Oh, let's see. Looks like there's still a few people hanging in there out there. Alice Yadraya, if I'm pronouncing that right, Alice Yadraya, and Valentina Alcaraz, thank you both for joining us out there. I appreciate that. And thank you everyone else who's watching. Thank you for those who are watching this carnage on YouTube. Please remember, if you can, follow me here on Twitch. Like and subscribe on YouTube. I'm trying to get up to 100 subscribers on YouTube so I can get a decent name for our channel. And I'm trying to, I'm going to do all sorts of cutting plans to eventually get affiliate here. Although, like I say, I'm not, at this point, who knows? They take one look at this and say, nope, she's not Twitch quality or something. I don't know. Anyway, thank you all. I am going to cleanse this kitchen with fire. And I will see you next time. Thank you all for tuning in.